Always mindset should prevail over matter. Now, me, I'm 22-year-old. I'm currently the sports psychology intern here at Southampton, working with the foundation phase. And up until I was 20, my life was pretty normal. Went through things day to day. Played football up until I was 15. Played for some well-recognised clubs. Represented London County, and then I switched across to play rugby. And that's where my sporting journey began for me. I started playing just at college when I was 16. Went on to play for England colleges. Went to university at the age of 19 and broke into the university starting 15 in my first year. So that's my life up until 20. But then a couple of years ago, a lot of things changed for me. Now, rugby is one of them sports that you never really play fully fit. Now, before I had my injury, everyone hears it, you prioritise the big things and you forget about the little things. And my perception of the big things were, before my injury, were rugby, was sport, going out with mates, that sort of stuff. And I sort of forgot about the little things such as spending time with family, friends, cherishing, being healthy, that sort of stuff. Now, I think that sort of sums that up. In my first year, we had this picture was from the actual game. We was playing against Bath, which is a well-recognised university, and we was playing against each other, and we was both going for the title in the same league. But I had missed a large chunk of the season already because I broke 2 metatarsals in my foot. Now, before this game, what I mean by prioritising the big things back then is, before this game, I cut my cast off 2.5 weeks early into a 6-week health just to play this game. Took some painkillers, got through the game, took some more painkillers at half time, and got through the game, and then the next few days was an absolute task because rugby was my life, as a lot as you boys would say football's your life. But it swiftly all changed for me. This picture on the left is Bournemouth Sevens Festival. I don't know if anyone heard it, that's me at the front. The reason I'm laying down there is because I took a big hit at Sevens, and it damaged the muscles that protect my thoracic spine. What I mean by damage, it ruptured the muscle. But me being me and putting it down to just get on with it, I carried on playing throughout the week, trained twice. And then the photo on the right is the day of my accident. So there I am at the back there. This is the end of the year, my end of the year summer ball. So as you can see there, I'm happy there in some questionable fancy dress. And yeah, we started the day going up to the Lions against New Zealand game, which is the Lions tour, which I don't know if anyone knows it, but it's the Lions tour, so it's quite a big thing in the rugby calendar. So we're going to watch that, and then as I was walking back from there to my student halls, I sort of was just walking around the road and just dropped to the floor, and I couldn't get back up for about 10 minutes, and then everything come back, and I got up, carried on walking, and sort of didn't think nothing of it. I just put it down to being dehydrated. So I started drinking some water, just ignoring it really, and then the funnier thing, a couple of hours later, I was trying to do the worm. Just trying to be funny as usual, showing my exotic dance moves. And halfway through doing the worm, my body just stopped again, and my top half was moving, but my bottom half wouldn't. And then as I tried to get up, my legs were all jelly, and then sort of come back down, and again after 10, 12 minutes, it went, and I got back up. And then there I was a little bit more sceptical, so I stopped like joining in with all the thing. I was thinking about it too much, so I just sat on the side. But after a couple of hours, it had all completely gone. Hadn't had nothing else happen. So me being me and wanting to join in the fun, I just carried on, walked round to the bus stop to get the bus to the event for the student ball. And when I got on the bus, went upstairs to the back of the bus because I'm really cool. Sat at the back of the bus, and halfway through the bus went over a speed bump, and it triggered a fluid that got into my spinal cord through the ruptured muscles I had in my back from the surgery, and triggered a rare condition called transverse myelitis. I think in this country it's 1 in 100,000 people have it. So yeah, it's a really rare neurological condition which basically inflames the spinal cord, so it pushes out and blocks all the neural pathways, so messages can't get from the brain to below wherever the thing was. Now, for me, they cut a hole in the roof of the bus, so £1 million bus down the Swanee because it cut the top of the roof out to get me down. I got taken straight off to Poole Hospital, and it was quite obvious straight away that as soon as I got to Poole Hospital, they didn't have the means to deal with an injury of the severity that I had. So they blue lighted me straight off to Southampton. Now, the big thing for me in all of this is mindset. I had to make a choice pretty early on, and if I'm honest, in the early days, I was very fixed. Said a lot of things that my parents probably don't want to hear from their son. Really dark days, didn't really want to talk to anyone. I sort of just given up because my whole life had come to an end, because the big things like rugby, going out with mates, just walking around, kick about, that sort of stuff, I couldn't do anymore. So yeah, pretty much just given up. I gave in to the obstacle, I give up, and that was that. So I'll talk you through my time in hospital anyway. Now, I went to Southampton Hospital to start. I was on the Wessex Neurological Ward, and this was an eye-opener for me because I wasn't on there with people just with spinal cord injuries, I was on there with people with brain injuries. So I see quite a few things that was like, I saw myself as lucky. This is me pictured. This was the start of my 12th week on my back, on my bed. So I didn't move from that position for 12 weeks, other than just the nurses to turn me, because my back, I was being pumped with 1,000 milligrams of steroids a day. And just to put that into perspective, when you take tablets, one tablet is 5 millilitres. So I was taking 1,000 a day. So yeah, this was the start of my 12th week, and then for the whole time I was at Southampton, I was mainly on my back, other than towards the end I had a couple of physio sessions. But then this, on the right hand side, is when I moved across to the Salisbury Spinal Unit, and it's pretty unheard of to be swimming without a physio or without anyone in the pool with you assisting you, but I managed to do that half an hour into my first session in the pool because I was adamant that I didn't want help. Didn't want help, so I jumped in there, got some really cool inflatables on, and the reason that I was so determined after this point is because orange pill, like, you probably think, why have I got orange pill on the board, but an orange pill effectively changed my whole mindset, pretty much changed my life after my injury, because I was in my room in Salisbury. I had a side room because I was advancing quite a lot quicker than everyone else, so I was in there, and I had an orange pill, and I couldn't get it in the bin because the bin had a button on the floor that lifted the lid up, and at that point in my injury, I didn't have the strength or balance to bend over and press a button, which I did have. But I didn't have, so I didn't have it, so I sat and stewed, and it took me about 3 hours to figure out a way of getting this orange pill in the bin. And it comes to the point where I just threw a wheelie up like this and just dropped and tried to aim. And I didn't do it first time either, it took me about 30 times to actually get my wheel to land on the button. And then the lid of the bin shot up, and I put the orange pill in the bin. Now, you probably think, what's the point of that story? But for me, that was the time in my whole injury that my mindset changed from a fix to a growth mindset. Now, before this incident, I saw my injury as a threat. So a threat to me, a threat to who I am, a threat to what I do. So everyone really recognised me for playing rugby, being a big macho, tough man. And when I had my injury, I was sort of like, well, no one's going to respect me anymore, friends are not going to be with me anymore. Just one of them, and I was just doubting everything, and I saw it as a complete threat to my being. But this whole situation changed it, and I then saw it as a challenge. So every day I had to do things differently, I had to think differently, and I had to do things longer, I had to do things a different way. and it wouldn't have been come about without the orange pill. So that's when my advice to you boys, based on this particular lived experience, is don't ever see anything as a threat. Concentrate on your own journeys. If you get injured, don't worry about what you can't do, because often I was one person at the start. I focused on what I can't do anymore, which was play rugby, as I said earlier. But concentrate on your own journey and what you can do. So if you are injured, however long you're out for, at the early stages you can get yourself in the gym, you can get yourself in a psychology lab, getting yourself mentally strong, so that when you are going back, you're going back stronger than when you started before. Because often, a lot of times, wasted going, oh, I just want to play football, I want to go out on the pitch, which I did. So that would be one of the key messages from this presentation, is to concentrate on your own journey. One, never belittle your own journey, and always concentrate on what you can do rather than what you can't do. This is a big one for most of the people in this room, and it was a huge one for me. And it wasn't one I didn't grasp this one until quite a way down my injury. And does anyone know what vulnerabilities means? No. Alright, it's good. So vulnerabilities is basically just admitting to people that you're vulnerable and certain, you're feeling down about things, you need help with certain things. And this was a big one for me throughout the first big chunk of my injury, because I didn't want to admit to anyone I needed help. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to get on and do it myself. But what you realise when you go through something like this, your perception of how people deal with you is completely different. And admitting your vulnerabilities is one of the strongest things, one of the most powerful things you could ever do. Because admitting that you need help isn't an easy thing. And for example, for you boys, if you're injured, admit that you need that help from different members of staff if you're struggling with certain things. Never try and get through it on your own, because the path's always a lot more lonely and it's a lot harder. Okay, and being strong isn't walking around with a puffed out chest pretending that you're alright. Being strong is calling on the relevant people to help you through your vulnerabilities. And admitting your vulnerabilities is a massive thing that not many people do. So never suffer in silence. If you've got something that you're worried about, if there's something that you're not quite okay with, make sure you tell people. Don't ever keep it inside, because eventually I learned the hard way. It ate away at me. It constantly ate away with me, that I couldn't do things, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And as soon as I sort of tried to break down that barrier, I got happier and happier day in, day out. And it just gave me a greater feeling of life, because you realise the network of people you've actually got around you, and actually how much they mean to you. So whilst I was in hospital, I had a lot of decisions to make. So when you have a spinal cord injury, it's very rare that you leave hospital under sort of 4 or 5 months. And I left under 11 weeks, so that's just over 2 months. And because I made a lot of decisions that someone with my level of injury would usually have a carer full time, or would usually have nurses coming into the house, something like that. Because it's not just the loss of legs that I lose half my core, so I also lose my bladder and bowels. So I have to do certain routines to deal with them. And I made a decision it's actually the day after the orange pill incident that I was going to be completely carefree, and I was going to leave the hospital under 12 weeks, and I was going to do absolutely everything myself. So as you can imagine, it was the hardest 12 weeks of my life, because I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what I was going through, and I was effectively a baby again, trying to learn how to do everything again. Now, I taught myself a way that I can go to the toilet. I taught myself a way how I can control my bladders. I taught myself how to transfer from chair to floor, floor to bed, bed to chair, shower chairs, and I pretty much taught myself how to do basics again in 11 weeks. And I left hospital, and the biggest decision I made in my whole time was this decision. Now, that photo on the left's just me in hospital winning again. And then, but this was the biggest decision for me, because a lot of people, this is, or not a lot of people, to me this was a huge thing. Now, I got my leaving date on the 22nd of September 2017, and it was one of them days I was like, I can't wait to get out of hospital. But a lot of people would quit their job, move back home where they can be helped, and I made the bold decision to move back into a flat at my university all by myself. I didn't even go home for a day, just got back, and that was when the hard work started for me, because although you're doing it yourself in hospital, you've still got the safety of the hospital walls, and if need be, you're like, oh, nurse, grab that, can't quite be bothered. But you get back to it, and it was then that I realised that I had to learn how to live again. So it was frustration upon frustration. I was doing a sports psychology and coaching science degree. I was in my second year, so it meant something, but I still wanted to do it, still wanted to carry on, so I'd done it. I was in the hospital 3 days a week for the majority of my second year. I was in rehab 1 day a week, so I only actually had one day a week where I could do uni work. And I still graduated from my second year with first class, but that come through my choices. I wanted to work hard. I didn't want to be a normal run-of-the-mill person. So that would be my message to you boys from this particular thing: is don't ever be scared of change. Like, if something's changed, embrace it, go with it, and challenge yourself a bit. Okay, don't ever be like, can't do that, I might look stupid. Don't even. I had to ask my friends to do some things that a lot of friends wouldn't even dream of asking their friends to do, but it's because I had to. I didn't have a choice. Okay, so if you boys ever have changed, whether you change clubs in the future or anything like that, never be scared of it, boys. Always embrace it, go for it, and do what you got to do. And also in my second year, I applied for this placement all from a hospital bed. So I was coming from hospital to here to have my interviews, and then going straight back to hospital. I was getting like half a day leave, coming in the hospital minibus, going along the road, coming here, having my interview and going straight back. And so there were the little challenges that I set myself, and that all come from having that mindset that this wasn't going to stop me, and I was going to embrace it, and I was going to allow it to challenge me, and I was going to succeed at all the challenges. So that was jumping the gun a little bit. That was what I was gonna. That was the coming here. So Southampton, this is probably one of the most prestigious placements you can get as a student. So although you boys, it's just similar for you boys really, like how hard it is to get into a professional club, how hard it is to stay at a professional club. It's the same as for staff really. These jobs are the jobs you want as in our professions. So this is one of the proudest things, this was one of the proudest moments that I've had since my injury, because this showed me how far I've come, because I genuinely don't believe that I would have had this opportunity if I wasn't in the chair. And the reason I say that is because I learned a lot about myself in this, and my perspective of the little and the big things that I spoke about earlier have all changed. Now, before, the big things would have been rugby. I would have done anything to be on a rugby pitch, broke through any barrier, going out with friends, and I sort of completely ignored what I wanted to do, my future, my health, my family, and then little things that we often forget about. And Southampton has put it into perspective for me, what is important. And if, again, my advice on this slide would be, is are you making the most of the opportunities you have here every single day? Now, what I mean by that is building relationships with the people, because whether it's me, whether it's Amy, whether it's Adam, Ian, Paradise, you never know when you'll need them. So you might not need them now, you might not need them in a year's time, but you might be even at another club in a few years' time, and you might think you might really need someone. So build them relationships now, get that rapport going with people that are important, and you'll benefit from that. Now, this is quite a funny story. So I went up to, so the Spinal Games is basically a competition where every spinal ward in the country competes against each other. And basically a spinal ward is people that have spinal injuries. Now, I think, I'm not even going to try and guess how many there are in the country, but there was a lot of people there, Scotland, Wales, England. So, and on the first day, I did pull, wasn't very good at it, got knocked out early doors, wasn't a bit of me, wasn't interested enough, was too slow, so didn't get really involved in that. And then on the second day I'd done the table tennis competition, and I come second against someone that was in the GB table tennis Paralympic squad. Third day, again, I had swimming. I did an event each day because a lot of people in my spinal unit didn't fancy it most days, so I was pretty much just filling in for everyone. Did the swimming on the final day and I won that. And then on the fourth day, there was a powerlifting set up, and again, the person from my spinal ward didn't fancy it. So I thought, I've played rugby, I've lifted weights before, I'll give it a go. Now, there on the bar there's only 60 kilos, but I actually lifted 137.5 kilos that day, and that was for someone that had been for the best part of the year completely out of it, had lost. So just to put it in perspective, I'm a T12 injury, so I'm just above the belly button, and everything below that is gone, it's paralysed. So here I've got sort of no balance, and this was the first time I lifted a weight. And I ended up winning it with 137.5 kg lift, and I then got talent ID'd for British weightlifting, which leads me on to this. Now we're looking at more of the growth mindset side of stuff, and throughout this journey, I'm sure if you boys sat there now and just read through that, you could reflect, and you could think of challenges that you've embraced. You can think of setbacks that you've persisted through. Now, my biggest thing that I wanted to do after the Spinal Games is I wanted to develop my potential every single day, and I wanted to be different. I didn't want to be, oh, that's Liam in the wheelchair. I wanted to be, oh, that's Liam the Paralympian, that's Liam done this. I wanted to be recognised for something, and so this was where I really used my setback as a fuel. So at this point, at the start, I was rock bottom. I couldn't be possibly below, and then it was slowly getting better. And the mindset was huge throughout it all, because as soon as you give up yourself, as soon as you start letting negative thoughts creep in, as soon as you start fearing challenge, that's going to set you back a whole lot more than what an injury would or something like that. Okay, and for me, I went from the Spinal Games, and in January this year, still haven't been injured a 2-year period. I've become English champion. So I won the gold medal at the English Championships in January with a lift of 168 kilos, which isn't close to my 1 rep max, but it was enough to see me win. And that's just a photo of me there with my medal, and Alec, who's my GB coach on the right. Now, this might not mean much to a lot of people, but for me, this was when things are starting to pay off now. 2 years into after a spinal cord injury, a lot of people wouldn't even be back into doing things that they did before. But I just achieved a great thing, gone down in the history books as an English champion, and for me, that was all down to because I did not want to give up. I didn't want to be normal, and everything that was thrown in front of me, I just looked at it, I assessed it, and I cracked it. And that is what you boys have got. You're going to have to do at different parts of your career. You're always going to have challenges. You're going to have setbacks. It's part of sport, but it's how you bounce back from them. It's how you view them, and view them as motivation rather than a threat. Now, how do you see your future? If I ask you that question now, what would a lot of people have a clear view of their future, or would you just be, don't really know, just doing it? My advice would be, at this sort of age, start thinking about what you want to do and where you want to get to, the level you want to get to, what you want to achieve, because it will come at you fast, and you'll get to a point of like, oh, I don't even know how I got here, I don't know what I'm doing here. And just, I want to be a Paralympic champion, so I want to go to the Olympics. My target is Paris in 2024 and the Commonwealth in 2022, and I want to win a gold medal at both. So that's my future, and that's all been fueled by my setbacks and the challenges and the risks that I've had to take. So plan your future, get your future planned out, and it's not always going to go to that plan, but just have an idea of that end destination. But there'll be a lot of roadblocks on the way that you've got to get through. So this is when the day I was left, the day I got in hospital, and this quote on the top left, I actually remember reading it. It stuck with me. It stuck with me a lot of the time, and I didn't take too much notice of it in the early 4 or 5 weeks. But as it got on, you can't change what's happened, but what's in front of you is in your power. It's completely down to you. It's not down to me. It's not down to anyone else. You have control of your own future, and it's that. And if you take it with both hands, use every opportunity you get, embrace every challenge you have, and take risks and learn. And if they go wrong, and learn from them, your future will be bright. But if you shy away from challenge, if you shy away from risk, and you're scared of change, then it's going to be a lot more difficult. Okay, so the future is in your power, and you're all very powerful in your own way. Okay, and you can all influence not only your own futures but each other's, and don't be asked to ask for each other's help. Okay, because you're all good at different things. And before my injury, I was a golden boy, and no one was better than me at anything. But my perception completely changed when I had to ask my friends to do things, and you're like, you shouldn't be asking your friend to do that. But my friends didn't even bat an eyelid, and that was the day that I realised that admitting that I'm vulnerable in certain situations and getting help is the greatest thing you can do. Now, I encourage you to ask some questions, boys. It can be absolutely about anything. It can be about my journey. It can be something, if I can try and offer some advice based on my lived experience on your journeys. But any questions would be greatly appreciated. Yes, sir.
You know when you said like after your injury, you said some dark days.
Yeah.
How did you did you have any way to like cope with that?
So in my early days, I was quite angry. So and obviously when I went through something like this, people closest to you get the brunt of everything. So my main thing was I just kept telling myself it's all going to be alright, I'm going to get better. And although it didn't happen, that motivated me to get to the position where I am today in order to do this job. Because a lot of people in wheelchairs wouldn't be able to do this job because of the trains, going across the grass, that sort of stuff. But just knowing that I was going to be alright in the end was my biggest thing, where I sort of settled from the nerves and settled from the scary place. Because it was scary. It was like I was trapped in my own body effectively. Upstairs I wanted to do things and I couldn't do it. So and it was so scary. But yeah, the thing I really concentrated for it was just hope, light at the end of the tunnel. There's always, I was at rock bottom, so it was only ever going to get better, and I just concentrated on that and waited for the better, or worked and waited for the better days. Someone else? Yes.
How do you plan on winning gold medals?
So currently I'm training 5 times a week. So 3 days of the week I train at 5:30 in the morning, and then a couple of days I'll go with my coach. And I train, I work hard, and everything, and nothing will stop me. Nothing will actually, because I was thrown into adversity without being known, and it hasn't stopped me. So if that hasn't stopped me, then nothing's going to stop me, sort of thing. So my attitude now, that anything that gets thrown in my way, whether it's big or small challenge, nothing will stop me, and I'll get to that top, whether it's hook or by crook, but I'll get there. And just with hard work, dedication, like a lot of you boys, just giving you everything to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. When you were injured, how did you keep yourself motivated to keep going?
Oh, good question. My motivation was my family. So I was never really that close to my family growing up. I sort of was quite an independent child. Sort of took myself off to school from like year 4, year 5. Secondary school, straight away I was off by myself and didn't really, as I said earlier, I didn't really appreciate my family. I was out doing other things, being out with mates, doing what you do, and when I had that, the day after, the next day, I had 15 rugby boys and my family stood all around my bed when I woke up, and that was my motivation. So if you boys ever have setbacks, use the people in this room as your motivation. Use it. Don't be scared of other people's success. Like players play up or players get this or get that, England call ups or whatever. Then don't be like, oh, well, he's getting it, I'm not getting it. What's the point? Be yourself. Use that as inspiration, because my friends inspired me every day. And before my injury, they didn't. I took them for granted, really. And now they inspire me every day. It's even the little things, boys. If you switch that little mindset and start looking at things a little bit different, everyone in this room will inspire you every single day. Because I get, just working in the psychology department here, I get inspired every day. Like, I've learned so much about myself this year through the people that I work with, and that's an opportunity that you boys need to take as well whilst you're in this setting. Because you're all here on merit. You're not here because your dad's paid the club loads of money to get it. You're all here because you deserve to be here. So use it, use each other, and really, really work hard together. Anyone else?
Do you ever miss not being injured? What do you think you should
Good question. I was hoping this one come up. I reckon I spend 6-7 hours a day thinking about my old life, and it's something I hugely miss, like hugely miss. But I've accepted it. I've accepted that it is what it is. I can't change it. It's not in my power. So as I said earlier, the past, it can't be changed. I can't change it. I can't turn around and just put an injection in my legs and trot off. So I have to plan. I have to live my future out differently, but it still won't stop me doing anything I want to do. And that'd be, yeah. And that's a huge thing, boys. Never let anyone or anything tell you can't do something. If you want to do it, and work it. And if you don't get there, come back. If you make mistakes, learn from them. But never ever stop getting where you want to get to, no matter what anyone says, any setbacks you have. Just might have to do things differently from time to time. But that's not the end of the world, boys, trust me. Anyone else? Yeah.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing that you should have done, like what would you have done, like mentally?
I would have been grateful a lot more. I would have showed a lot more gratitude, because I was quite privileged. I had quite a privileged upbringing, and I often, we're all guilty of it, not showing enough gratitude. But I'd show a lot more gratitude, and it wouldn't just be for people and things. It'd be for my health. Just waking up in the morning is not guaranteed, so be grateful for that, and start every day by achieving something, if that makes sense. If I went back when I was at college, that sort of stuff, often I'd sleep till 9, 10 o'clock, get up, doodle about, and I wouldn't actually achieve anything in my day till 4 or 5 o'clock, and the day's gone. So that would be my advice: achieve something every single day, even if it's something as simple as making your bed in the morning. Just achieve it, do it, set your day off right, and be grateful for everything and everyone around you, because you boys are in a position that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people would want to be in. So be grateful for that and use it to everything you got.